Welcome to the M2 Podcast. I'm your host, MikeWillEatU. My co-host right here is KyleHeath. This is the show where we cover the last week gaming industry-related news. And I guess let's just jump into it, Kyle. What have you been up to the last week? Have you played any new games? You've been grinding? I know you've been playing at least Palworld.
Yeah, you already
So
know.
what else you got going on?
I just have to point out the hey. I like that. You just said hey. Welcome, everyone.
Just trying to grab attention, dude. That's
Hey.
all I'm really trying to do.
Listen. Yeah.
Hey, listen.
Games I played this week.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
you already mentioned it. The biggest game, obviously, being Palworld. I got sucked into that.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff to talk about there. On top of that, I played a couple other games too. I played a little bit of Super Mario Galaxy again, kind of trying to make some progress on that.
Very nice.
A couple hours in. I also picked up Manhunt 2 on the Wii, which is really interesting. I've been playing that. That's like it's weird too. I'm only like maybe a couple of like levels in. It's like maybe a couple hours at most, but that's like an interesting game. It's like I don't know. For those, I guess unaware of Manhunt, because like the first game was very much like it's a Rockstar title, and it's one of Rockstar's like most controversial titles, especially the first game, just because of the subject matter. Like it's pretty much pretty much a guy that is like, I guess, like captured by like some like high level executive or something like that, some like real like weird guy who essentially like forces him to make like snuff films of him like killing people, and like he wants him to record. It's like really dark stuff, and so that's kind of the first game. And so when people like, when people think about Manhunt, I feel like they think about that first game. Very interesting kind of setting and everything. I haven't played the first game, but essentially, I guess Manhunt 2, I guess, is some sort of continuation on that. Where you're like, I don't know the full story. I just know I am a guy who lost his memory, who is like escaping from like a mental institution, and so it's like, and you're still like killing people and whatnot, and then you're finally like gaining your memory back and everything. So I don't know the full story of the second game, but that's kind of where we're at in that game. It's really interesting. But like with the Wii, I love the Wii controls because it's like the full like. It's so weird because when you're doing like kills and stuff in that game, it's very much like you're moving to like what your character's doing.
Really?
Yeah, so it's like
So are you looking like a maniac? Just like, are you kind of like this? Just like
yeah, like like when you're slashing down or like hitting down, like you actually you have both a nunchuck and the controller and you're going down with it and stuff.
Oh, wow,
it's like it's really weird, but
that's really cool.
I kind of fits I feel like it fits the game really well to have motion controls, but so I've been playing that. It's been pretty interesting. Like the story again, I still want to do like. I need to like go through and actually like read kind of a synopsis to at least understand the beginning parts, to kind of get it more. But yeah, first game's really weird. There's a couple of I think there's like one video I saw of someone that did a retrospective on the Manhunt like games, and he did one on the first game. It's like really good. But you can find stuff on YouTube if anyone's like ever curious about what those games are like, because it's a really weird thing that Rockstar did that they didn't really continue on much because obviously the material's very very heavy, but yeah, it's a Rockstar game through and through, so you're getting at least like a quality game. But yeah, I say quality game, but I'm pretty sure Manhunt 1 on PC is like not even playable anymore because like the amount of Windows versions we've like turned out is like the game's just not
keep up.
Yeah, like can't keep up, so it's like really just poor performing and doesn't map to PC or to like keyboard and mouse well. Anyways, yeah, I played those on the Wii a little bit. But yeah, dude, most of my week so far has just been like Palworld, really. I heard all the I wanted to see what all the hype was about, and heard like within the first like couple days there's millions of copies being sold. So
2 million, I think, to be exact.
Yeah,
or
it's like
that.
it's like up to 8 million now. It's
gosh.
kind of wild, but yeah, so I've been playing some of that, and I've been like really enjoying it. I think it's interesting. I've seen a lot of like the controversy and stuff like that, which to me it's like it's a little confusing, but I don't know. I enjoy the game, so I'm definitely gonna keep playing it. I think it's kind of an interesting take. Like, yeah, sure, they're obviously taking things from Pokemon for the pals and whatnot, and like trying to use abilities and capturing and whatnot. So like that stuff's there. There's certainly resemblance with a lot of the pals, I think, to some Pokemon, but I mean overall, I think I think the foundation of the game is like a survival, just kind of like a open world survival adventure style game. I think is really pretty dope, and I love like it's a bit of a grind too, which is interesting too, because it's like you really have to like sink time in to get like guns and stuff like that before the game really starts like getting crazy. So
Yeah,
And I'm
that's what
hoping,
I've noticed is
yeah.
like the beginning is a huge grind fest, but then once you get a little bit further in, um, the world opens up to you pretty
Yeah.
quickly. You
Yeah, I
just
don't know. I
gotta
mean,
grind,
yeah,
grind first, and then everything's awesome
yeah.
afterwards.
I mean, it's definitely a little bit of a grind. I've been doing a lot of like exploring and stuff too, so it's like keeping things interesting. So it's not just like just doing one thing, like trying to level doing one thing, kind of do multiple things and explore the world. And
Yeah,
yeah, there's like bosses you can fight, dungeons you can explore, and like it's I don't know. There's a lot of content there, and I think it's just pretty like well done for being a early release, like pre kind of a pre-release
yeah.
thing. So
I had no idea it was in like still preview or
yeah,
what like game preview. I had no idea. I only
yeah,
noticed that when it was on Game Pass, which is pretty sick. I
yeah.
downloaded, never got a chance to play it though.
Yeah,
Not yet, at least.
it's interesting. It's so funny too because I went back and watched Summer Games Fest whenever we covered like the part of them showing all the games. And like we get to the
Right.
Palworld section and it was so quick, like we didn't really like have much to say, but it was just like it looks so like weird. And we were just like, but I remember thinking at the time like it was like I was like when this game comes out, I feel like it's just like I feel like it's not gonna really do anything. Like it's like kind of
Neither did
weird or
I.
like
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of hype. I think there was
and they're
just
just
it was
they're
just kind of like
I feel
yeah,
like they just didn't
crafting.
show much, like in the trailer, like of what the game was. Like
Uh,
they kind of like just it was kind of like more of a preview. Like they're I don't know. I didn't expect the game to be as big and as vast as it is. So I don't know. I'm pretty impressed with kind of just the scale of this game. So I
so am
think
I.
yeah, and like I looked up the developer too and kind of some of their past games. It's like in 2019 they released like a card game style thing where it was like a battling like cards like I guess Hearthstone and whatnot. They released a game kind of like that, and then like after that, they released another game that was like an open world, like Japanese survival. The studio is based out of Tokyo, but it's like a Japanese kind of like open world, kind of style game that's pretty similar, except obviously there's no pals or anything. And then that was like I feel like that was kind of their concept to build this that we have now, and it's just hugely successful. They're got hundreds of millions of dollars, so it's
Yeah.
pretty wild. But yeah. But yeah, no, it's a good game, and I'm gonna we'll definitely talk more about it later on in the episode. But yeah, fun
Yeah,
stuff there.
I'm excited to cover it. I think it's a good game. There's a bunch of hype over it, and I think it's kind of justified. Hype either, I mean, it could be positive or negative. It just depends on your opinion on a couple of matters, specifically the Nintendo copyright, alleged copyright infringement, like you were
Yeah,
saying with
yeah,
the characters.
yeah, yeah. We can get to it later. There's someone that made a Pokemon like reskin mod,
Oh,
and then like
they got
Nintendo's
cease
coming
and
after.
desist
Yeah,
like, oh
Nintendo's
yeah,
coming
so
after him.
quick.
It's crazy. But,
Yeah.
but yeah,
And anybody that's actually showed the content too, which is wild.
yeah, it's pretty nuts, man. It's pretty nuts. But
Yeah.
that's what I played, Mike. What'd you play?
Honestly, not a lot, man. I didn't have really any variety at all. Pretty much what I've been doing is just grinding the finals, like
Okay,
nonstop
okay.
solo grinding. And admittedly, I've been wanting to play other games that I have on my list, and I've had times to do that. Like Palworld came out, and I saw all the hype, and I'm like, I kind of want to get on this. And then I wanted to play with people, and then nobody's really available to play. So I was like, oh crap, I don't know what I want to do. So I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna keep playing the finals. So I honestly don't have much variety going on right now. Outside of finals, it's been like I haven't even really watched sports. I did watch a bunch of different TV shows. Apparently, what's the name of the show? It's on Netflix and it is a Korean show, fiction, like fantasy almost, and it's called what is it like? Captivating the King or something like that. And I watched the first episode. It's all Korean. I'm obviously watching in English subtitles because I'm not smart enough to learn another language.
Yeah,
And it's pretty good. It's there's some parts where you're just like this is kind of cheesy, kind of weird, but I'm like, different cultures, different styles.
yeah.
So it's cool. That's basically what I got going on. Just hanging out with the dog. As you can see, he's riled up. So for the people that are watching on video, you're probably going to see him running in the background.
Dude,
That's
yeah.
why I keep looking down. I'm not trying to ignore you. He's just being chaotic right now.
Yeah. Well, see, it's funny too. I speaking of TV too. I ended up watching the first couple episodes of like the Ted series on Peacock.
Yeah.
But I thought it was
Oh, Ted Lasso.
no, not even that. It's the Ted. Seth MacFarlane's Ted. They made a series.
The teddy bear Ted.
Yeah, yeah. So they made a
Oh, I
TV
didn't know
show.
that.
Yeah, they made a TV show of like the high school days of Ted and like the main character, like when he was in high school. So it's like a prequel
Oh
to the
wow,
movies. I watched the first couple episodes. It was pretty funny, but yeah,
it
there's like
sounds funny. Yeah,
I don't know, it was like 6 or 7 episodes, something like that. So still more to watch, but
perfect.
that was pretty funny.
Uh, so what do you say we just go ahead and start getting into basically the breaking news of this week?
Yeah, dude, I'm down. I'm down.
I'm
Like,
ex- I'm excited for the first one because honestly, I heard about it. I heard all the different games that were going to be coming out specifically for Xbox, but I didn't actually look at the list. So this is
yeah,
going to be a fresh take.
yeah, it's
We're gonna see some oldies on here that have been announced forever ago, man.
yeah, it was pretty good. I think for the most part. For those who don't know, the Xbox Developer Direct 2024 happened this week. I ended up watching it. I didn't get to catch it live, but I did end up watching it on my 4K television. And let
Oh,
me tell
very
you, that
nice.
4K stream, oh, it was crisp. Very nice on a display like that. But anyway, yeah. So the Developer Direct happened. So I'll read a little bit of the article and then I'll kind of touch on some of the games they talked about. So this is from Joe Scribbles, Xbox Wire, editor in chief. I feel like Joe Scribbles is like a pen name. Like it's not an actual person. I don't know. Or like it is a person, but they're like writing anonymously, you know?
Yeah, I
Anyway.
think that honestly, you might be right.
Oh, because I know that does exist sometimes. Anyway, um, Xbox Developer Direct, all the news and announcements. It's going to be a good year for Xbox players. So explain this. At today's Developer Direct show, we provided deep dives into 5 games launching across Xbox Series X and S, PC, Game Pass, and or the cloud, all of which will arrive in 2024. Development teams at Xbox Bethesda and even one of our third-party partners invited you into their studios to showcase extended gameplay, reveal key information, and more. During the show, we visited the studios behind Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Avowed, Sinuous Saga Hellblade 2, and Ara History Untold to find out more about each one. Members of each development team gave us a look into their creation with new information and offered a tantalizing glimpse at what's to come this year. All 4 of these games will arrive day 1 to Game Pass, ladies and gentlemen, and will contribute to what's going to be another huge year for members, delivering incredible games throughout 2024. Plus, in a special surprise, we heard from the team at Square Enix to learn more about Visions of Mana, the first new mainline entry in the Mana series in over 15 years, and its debut on the Xbox platforms. With participation from developers of 3 continents, it is a truly global show. So yeah, they we'll kind of go in order of how they revealed stuff. They talked about Avowed. For those that don't remember, Avowed is that good old Obsidian game that they're working on, the next Obsidian RPG. It looked pretty crazy. I don't know about skip through this, probably just a recap. Yeah. Anyways, this gonna show some visuals, but essentially, yeah. So the game director came and talked. They were on the show. They talked about kind of Avowed, what they're working on, some of the different combat systems and whatnot. It was overall, I really enjoyed this. I think it was interesting as someone who's not huge into like those kind of like older style RPGs. I think it still looked pretty interesting. The one thing that stuck out to me that I remembered was they talked about the ability, and it caught me off guard at first because it was like they were like going through all the like, combat abilities and stuff, but they essentially, if I remember correctly, I think it was dual wielding like wands, and there was like someone like shooting like crazy, and like it was like these weird kind of like combat mechanics I'd never really seen in an RPG like that. So they're definitely trying some out of the box stuff, I feel like. Which kind of got me excited. Yeah, it was. I think all around it looked very interesting, and I think it's got me interested. I mean, the fact that it's on Game Pass too, like I think it's something I'm actually gonna check out whenever it comes out. So very much excited for that. As far as I know, there was no real kind of release date. It was just fall of this year. It was cool to see stuff like that. But yeah, day and date Game Pass. Gotta check it out, Mike. I feel like I don't know. What do you think about Avowed?
Well, I remember a couple of the gameplay stuff, and I didn't see the dual wielding wands part, but they definitely had that element of. Didn't Skyrim have this where they had like magic powers with your like left hand, and then you would have a sword in your right hand? Or is that like
Yeah, I think
Oblivion?
there
I
was
mean,
something
in
like that.
that
Yeah,
realm,
yeah.
right? There's something like that. It's
Yeah.
like magic and medieval meets. Avowed sort of like that, but a little bit more colorful
Oh yeah,
and
for
a
sure.
little bit more over the top, I think.
Yeah.
Like dual wielding wands and then you're just spamming. It's like that's
Yeah,
so crazy.
it's
It
crazy.
kind of makes you wonder. It's like in like spell casting, I guess fantasies like art or TV shows and movies. Why don't they ever really show two wands at once?
It is kind of weird,
Isn't that
right?
kind of
Like,
weird?
you
Yeah.
have two hands. Like, why not?
Yeah, like, why not? Maybe yeah, it doesn't make sense because most of the time when you're casting spells, it's like a mental or like a vocal thing you have to do, which
Yeah.
makes you wonder if like people are mute, do they lose the ability to cast spells in
Yeah, use
certain
your mind.
universes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what's it called? Uh,
Brain dump.
yeah, brain dumping here. But I think there's a lot of potential for this.
Yeah.
Whether or not it releases, I mean, fall 2024, we're so early in the year, you know, you never really, I don't know, maybe I'm so jaded after the last couple of years of delays. I
Yeah.
just don't expect anything to really announce when or like come out when it's supposed to, unless there's a concrete date.
Yeah. It's true. It's very true. I
But it's
think
good to know. Day one Game Pass, that's awesome.
yeah. Yeah, it really is. So but yeah, I mean, like Obsidian, I think they like I played Outer Worlds and I really enjoyed that game. It's like it was kind of
Yeah.
Obsidian. It was an Obsidian RPG, and we didn't know kind of how it would be, but it was very much down that vein of using a lot of like kind of like Fallout's formula, but I think in their own kind of their own way, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think the RPG elements will be interesting, and like I said, the world is just so colorful, which I love, like just vibrant color. I think it's something that's something I always enjoy seeing. So it's good to see that. But yeah, dude, I gotta see more of this combat. I want to see more gameplay. See what's going
Agreed.
on with that. Pretty cool
I'm
stuff.
sure we're going to start getting more and more as we get closer to the date. They're going to start teasing a little bit more as marketing ramps up.
Gonna see that Summer Games Fest trailer.
Yes, sir.
Saying, well, we move on. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. This is the something that has been talked about for
It's
years
been
at this
hyped.
point. It's
Yeah.
like we're building up to this. What's been like a long time. Yeah, I always felt like release date will probably come either at like a game, either at like the Game Awards or like Summer Games Fest or somewhere. These big one of these major events to be announced. But sure enough, when they talked about this game at the Developer Direct, yeah, it was cool kind of going into the studio, seeing how big their studios become, seeing the kind of equipment they have, which I know we talked about before. It's like they've grown so much in size since the first game, so it's like they're able to do a lot more and kind of explore different
you're right.
things and really pour a lot of money into this to make a good game. So they finally announced that Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 will be releasing on May 21st, 2024. So nice little summer release.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much right around the corner. But yeah, it was really cool to see kind of, go a little bit more, kind of meet some of the people at the studio and kind of see, I can't exactly remember their tagline, but it was essentially like, they wanted to give a good game with like, they wanted to deliver a good game with like groundbreaking technology, like good story with groundbreaking technology. It was like some kind of tagline they had of kind of the goal with this game, but yeah, it seems like they're putting a lot into this. I'm very excited for this, and it's something I'm definitely gonna check out, especially after playing the first Hellblade. Very excited for that.
Yeah, it's been in development for about 6 years now.
Yeah,
So
quite a while.
yeah, so they've had time. Hopefully, it was enough time.
Yeah, that was the thing. I think it did a good job of not like giving a release until they were. It took years to make, obviously, but I could tell like they were really taking their time and making sure that when they deliver a date, they're gonna hit it. Obviously, could that get delayed again? I mean, yeah, but I'm pretty confident that they'd probably be able to stick to this date, given how much time they put into it. So,
Yeah,
we'll
it's
see.
just looking so good.
Yeah.
Everything we've seen come out of it just looks polished. So it's a good sign, and there's no rumors. I don't think of anybody leaving the studios that I know of. At least that hasn't been as public as previous games in development.
Yeah, I think what's so interesting about this, the most interesting thing about this right now, is you could literally go on Xbox Game Pass and pre-install it, which is like what? Like it's just so great. It's like it's already January. Like I like still got months, but I mean, if you could do it, hey, you got Game Pass, you could pre-install it.
Let's go.
Yeah, because it is like we said, day and day Game Pass, launching May 21st, available to play. Very cool stuff. Visions of Mana. I hope I'm saying Mana right. Mana. Mana. I feel like Mana is like the very American like.
Yeah, I think
Mana.
it's supposed to be Mana.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. That's how I've always heard it, at least.
Yeah, Visions of Mana. There's not like I don't know. I don't have too much to say about this game. I will say like visually it looked stunning. I think like most games, especially out of Japan, like whether it's combat or just overall world, like it just looked beautiful. And so yeah, visually appealing. And like what was really impressive to me is like the amount of like the amount of time they're putting into just the score alone. And I think what's really cool is like kind of one of the main creative directors talking about how they're really taking their time on crafting the music and the actual like sounds in the game to be very like kind of attuned to a certain situation. So like you'll hear it constantly changing, and like when you're in combat, it'll be you'll get the you'll get something interesting. But there's over 100 songs in total that they're actually working to put in the game. So I feel like there's gonna be a lot of variety music wise and sound wise. So I'm very excited for that. And I just have to say, every time they show like a Japanese dev or a Japanese development company, and like you see the people like they like that like get to talk about the game, every one of them are like the like coolest dressed I've ever seen. like this one guy came in, like they were talking to this like he's like an older gentleman, but like dude, I don't remember exactly what he had, but like he just looks so he had like a black like coat, and he was like leather like dripped out like. I was like, dude, this guy it looks amazing. I feel like I see that like every time when you see these studios. But it's
like an anime hero,
almost. Yeah,
something
it's like
that.
something like that.
Totally.
I'm like it just not who I would picture like to be dressed like that, but it just looks like I don't know, man. These people got style. I respect it.
That's a fact, actually. Now that you mention it, I don't think I've ever seen like a dev get up on stage that would look terrible. You know?
Yeah, right.
Like everybody's got style, it seems.
True.
Or they hire somebody that's got style.
Yeah. Anyways, regardless, though, I think gameplay wise, it looks pretty interesting. It's slated for summer 2024, so we'll see it a little bit later. I mean, it's a Game Pass game, so maybe worth checking out. If you already got it, it's no extra cost, right? So, and yeah, apparently it's the first mainline entry in over 15 years. I'm not super keen to Visions of Mana, I'll be honest. So it's news to me, but hey.
Yeah.
Looks great. Look at that. Very cool stuff. Okay. Mike, do you like Civ?
Yeah, kind of.
Do you like this?
I tell you that
games?
I like watching people play it more than I actually like playing it, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like I will literally put on like the TV, I'll throw on YouTube and I'll watch somebody do like City Skylines or any type of like city building exercise, like Civilization Builder, and just kind of like do chores around the house while that's running. So it's like I don't need to pay attention to it 100%, but I can pay attention to it enough to like just it's kind of nice seeing the progress of going from like one or like a small group of people to like, oh my gosh, we have 1 million people on this planet. Like that kind of nuts.
Yeah, let's see. Well, Art History Untold might be a game you could check out some like nice streams on, though. In the background, you clean something, you know what I'm saying? Listen.
Sounds like it.
The key leads at Oxide Games. I'll read a little bit of this. The key leads at Oxide Games debuted an all-new look at gameplay and shared an overview of key features coming to Ara History Untold during today's Developer Direct. Viewers learn more about Ara's crafting system, unique approach to simultaneous turns, and more. To learn more about the innovative new historical grand strategy game with our in-depth interview with the design director, Michelle Minard. And we had more to share about the coming months leading up to Ara's launch in the fall on PC and PC Game Pass. That's something that's worth noting. Like, it's coming to Game Pass. It's exclusive to PC and PC Game Pass. So it's kind of like, but with a game this size, it's very hard to consoleize a game that's, especially like this old kind of like Civ games. Like, that's why back in the day, like Civilization Revolution was like the console version of Civilization. You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah.
Kind of hard to like consoleize that.
Well, I think nowadays more and more people can use a mouse and keyboard on a console. So you could kind of run these style of games. To me, it's always been an input requirement.
Yeah, it's probably
it's
true.
just way easier to use mouse and keyboard on these types of games.
Yeah.
Although they're making it like more and more compatible.
Yeah, it's true. It looked pretty crazy. It's I think I really enjoyed kind of the studio. Like, I'm gonna talk about this. I almost wish I just pulled up the video anyway. But like the studios are very this studio especially the one working on our Oxide games. I think it's very much like kind of a smaller studio. And I just loved like the vibe of like the video, kind of what they're showing, and like kind of everyone's like, it seems like a pretty tight knit team, and it was just really cool to see. There was like they had like little like they had one of the people speaking was riding like a little like bike or something down the hallway, and it was kind of just like you could tell they just have fun. But yeah, it was also interesting too because it's like one of the main people that was talking, like he's kind of they have like a whole camera production there, obviously from like Xbox, and they're like doing the interview, and it's like someone comes in the background, like grabs a drink out of the fridge or something like that, and then walks away, and like it stops the interview, but like he's like, hey, you want to like talk to them or something like that? It was like really funny because like he's like as he walks out, the guy who's doing the interview, he's like we started in his basement. And it's like it was kind of just funny. It's like, and it's just like he's like the founder of the studio, and he's like, it's just crazy to think that like they have their own place now, and like they're sustainable and stuff like that, and it's like it all started from like some dude's basement. It's just wild to think
That's
about.
cool. Like
just
get
like
small business kind of stuff.
Yeah, you got like a little backstory in like 5 seconds, which I think like kind of made me like be more invested in kind of what they were talking about. Yeah, like I don't know, it seems like a very interesting studio. They got some very interesting people working there, and it seems like they're like making something they're passionate about. They even have like they do like preview like play tests and stuff like that they'll send out to get like real feedback as they develop. So they're making like systems, and they've already like improved on a lot of like their core systems they're trying to develop because they've just had that time to kind of work with like real people. So it seems like they're kind of doing it right. So I'm very interested to see kind of how this game turns out. But just like visually too, I mean, it looks like kind of your standard like history strategy, like I guess RTS style game. I don't know. But yeah, it's always interesting to see that, and so this seems like another take on that. So I'm excited to see like kind of more about it. But it seems pretty interesting. I don't know if I actually play it again. I think like you, I'll probably just end up like trying to check out gameplay on it. But looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I roll. With like most games now, I feel like I'm consuming them in video format, just watching other people play it. I don't even watch Twitch as much anymore, but
Yeah,
it is
same.
very fascinating, and I think it's just a good thing to see like these large games are being run by like smaller studios, and maybe that's a good thing because you can have more and more of a vision.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it seems like they all have a direct vision of kind of where they want to go with it. So
Yeah, I think they like focus. Yeah, sometimes smaller teams get things done better than like an overloaded big team.
Exactly. That's actually an interesting segue leading into the last game they showed, Developer Direct, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been waiting a long time to finally hear about the latest Indiana Jones game. I say latest, but this is like the first I feel like real like kind of if you're not counting like N64 and not N64 but like SNES and all those games, this is like the first like real like take at a 3D Indiana Jones game. I feel like.
True. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I will say like. Cutscenes and everything. It looks. I think overall it looks pretty interesting. It's definitely a game I want to check out. I mean, it'll be day and date on Game Pass. I think you just said it's launching in 2024. There's no like specific kind of window or anything like that, as far as I can see. It's kind of just seeing that. They did debut a lot of like gameplay and kind of the initial trailer, so it's cool to see that. Machine Games is kind of the main company behind it, like you remember the Wolfenstein kind of games like that. Kind of that studio is sort of taking the lead on it. Todd Howard is executive producer on it. You already know he's in there cooking up. You know what I'm saying? So it's very interesting to see, but yeah, like I get to see the studio and all the people working around this game. It was pretty interesting and kind of what's all kind of into it. And funny enough, the person voicing Indiana Jones, which I didn't realize until I think I read later, is actually why is his name leaving me? Troy Baker. That's who's doing it. So I don't know if you know Troy Baker. He kind of did, pretty well known voice actor, but yeah.
I actually do not know who Troy Baker is. What other characters has he done?
So Last of Us, Joel.
Okay. Well, I know that voice.
Yeah. So Joel in Last of Us did his voice. Oh gosh, he's done like a ton. It's like I can't even like some of them are leaving me right now, but he's done like he's a pretty like a lot of Sony IP he's like worked on. He's like kind of a go-to for that.
He's apparently done Batman.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, he does like a nice kind of a nice indie impression. I feel like because his voice is definitely kind of does. He kind of stretches his voice a little bit in this to sound like Indiana Jones. Like the the OG baby. So yeah, it's you could tell he does that, but it sounds pretty good. So I'm excited to gotta hear more and see more. But yeah, at least the initial gameplay, it looks like you're gonna be going all across the world, so it's gonna be interesting to see all the environments and yeah, the combat looks pretty dope. Looks like there's a lot of different like just craziness going on just in the trailer. So
Yeah, typical Indiana Jones style film. I
yeah,
mean, it's pretty cool. I'm always hesitant now when I see Bethesda game studios on any
yeah,
title, but what gives me like confidence is the fact that it's done by Machine Games. And as you mentioned, it's Wolfenstein that they've done, and they've
yeah.
also worked on Quake 2, believe it or not. So,
I I see.
yes, sir. So it can be pretty good because they're well established and they're award winning. So, I mean,
Right.
Bethesda's award winning too, so that doesn't really mean it's going to be great, but
Yeah.
it's a little bit more promising than just Bethesda on its own.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, there was a nice little piece on the developer direct, kind of talking about the game. It does take place with it. I forget which movies it takes place in between, but it actually does take place in the storyline at some point. So it's kind of interesting to see that of kind of where they're trying to place it throughout the lore. But yeah, it's I don't know. I'm very interested to check out more, and I think it's you know, like you said with Bethesda games, you're cautiously optimistic, but I think
Yes.
I think I don't know. It's definitely something I'm gonna check out because it'll be day one Game Pass, so definitely gonna be a download for me and gonna be playing it. Also be downloading the Dog's Energy so I could use it.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing right now. He's got me nervous, but I think he recently found out he can get underneath the bed, so I think he might be under there. There's nothing down there though, so it's fine.
Nice.
Um,
But yeah, there wasn't too much else that they discussed. I think a developer direct. It was a nice kind of 45-minute in depth showcase of kind of a few studios and what they're working on, and I like stuff like this. This is something that's like obviously I feel like if this was at like a main showcase, a lot of people would probably complain about like, oh, you're getting too in depth in the games. But I think it's what this is
yeah,
perfect for, right? Like when I want to hear more about games and see
yeah,
studios and how they work, it's cool.
yeah. Developer direct. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
With the developers coming forward and they're actually like it's the behind the scenes like culture of our studio, and this is how we're making the game. Those are always really fascinating
yeah,
because it kind of like I feel like it adds a little bit more context for people as consumers, but it can also really interest young people that don't know what they want to do with their career path. And maybe they're like, you're in high school and you see something like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're rendering and creating whatever they want. Like, look at how crazy that character is, and that can like inspire people to go into game development,
yeah,
which is really
yeah.
cool too.
That's true. But then you also hear the horrors again, which and what we've been talking about
Yes.
recently. There's like it can get kind of crazy, but like just the long hours really. It's like you get like long, like a developers, and granted, a lot of people they love what they do, obviously, so it's not a huge deal.
Right.
But even then, like even if you love what you're doing, too much of it to a certain point can be like, oh, I need to chill out. So it's kind of
Oh,
like one of those
burnout's a real
things.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no matter what. But yeah, it can be interesting though. Hey, if you like creating stuff, you like making an impact, create some art. That is video games. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact. You know what? If you're also a content creator, you can use
Hey,
a new hardware device. So,
hey.
AVerMedia. I was so excited about that segue. Let me just pat myself on the back real quick. Um, so this next article is from Game Rant, and it is Anthony Taramina. Taromina. Hopefully, pronounced the name correctly. It's posted about a week ago, and Game Rant's hardware reviews. So he went ahead and reviewed the AVerMedia Live Gamer Ultra 2.1 and the 4K PCIe capture cards for the review. So AVerMedia is one of the first to deliver an HDMI 2.1 external capture card that meets the promise of high frame rates and resolutions with no downside. So while most video game capture technology has reached a certain level of parity, there are still a few front runners or frontiers left for leaders in the space to aim for. For some, it's a display port capture, but most content creators have been waiting for the capture card that supports HDMI 2.1 in order to get the most of the current gen gameplay experience, regardless of whether they are in PC or console. AVerMedia is the first to answer that call to the Live Gamer Ultra 2.1 external USB-C capture card. And just recently, the company has also announced an AVerMedia Live Gamer 4K 2.1, a PCIe HDMI 2.1 capture card. So I just hit people with a lot of nomenclature. Let me dumb it down for you. HDMI 2.1 is essentially what your Xbox Series X needs. I think the Series S as well, and the PS5 needs to get like 4K, high resolution and high frame rates on monitors and TVs. If you don't have an HDMI 2.1 on your monitor or TV, you're kind of limiting yourself to what kind of quality you can get from your console. Do you think that's like a pretty accurate
Yeah,
description, Kyle?
I like that.
So between the two capture cards, you have one that connects through USB, which is the external capture card. That's the Live Gamer Ultra 2.1 external USB-C capture card. And then the other one is the one that goes in the slot in your motherboard in the other slot of where your like GPU would go, your
Yeah.
PCIe slot. And that will use a 4K pass-through 2.1 capture card. I actually have a 4K capture card. It's not a HDMI 2.1. It is the AVerMedia Live Gamer 4K. It's like I forgot the exact. Maybe it's model number 513. I got it like 4 years ago now, and it's similar to the Elgato one. It has better performance in a lot of different categories. However, it costs a little bit more. So AVerMedia is a good like I'll brag on them. Like I use their stuff all the time. I think they're a good product when you can get it on sale
Yeah.
because it's diminishing returns if you get it at full price. When they drop the sale, which they do often, and it becomes about equal to like Elgato, they have capture cards or they have webcams as well. When they become equal to like Logitech, like or that type of equivalent, that's when you should get it. You shouldn't get it when they're overpriced. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I like the
do you
opinion.
have any do you have any experience with AVerMedia other
No,
than what I've said to you?
yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, I don't know. I've been mostly Elgato whenever I've been like capturing gameplay. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't. It's interesting, especially from consoles and stuff. I don't do much like. I mean, one, I don't really like stream much. If I'm like recording stuff, it's really mainly on my PC. So it's like I'm
Yeah.
just using OBS. But I mean, I do still have my Elgato. I actually have a PCIe Elgato. I think it's just a 1080 card. I don't think it's 4K card or anything. But yeah, I mean, I've had that PCIe Elgato card now for I don't know 2 or 3 years, something like that. Probably 3, maybe 4. I don't know, a little while.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, but I have that. I mean, every time if I ever need to record console stuff, which I'm sure at some point I probably will be, either whether it's for streaming or recording stuff, I probably will still be utilizing that. I mean, I don't know. I have no desire to really record like 4K stuff at the moment. I'm sure that'll change, but yeah, I mean, but it is really cool and interesting to see kind of not only what Elgato's doing, but also what AVerMedia is doing in the space, just pushing further
Yes.
along. So it's all
Yeah.
fascinating to me.
Yeah, I think this might be the last forefront that people need to get to because you're only really going to have top of the line content creators that really need this.
Yeah,
Everything else is more of like if like I got it because I wanted to record in 4K or I wanted to be able to stream in 4K and I thought to myself I was like, well, let's just future proof everything.
yeah,
Let's go a little bit over the top. You don't really need to do that though. Like they're saying, there's still people waiting on DisplayPort capture that really helps out with streamers that want to do a pass-through DisplayPort so they can capture directly from like a gaming PC
yeah,
and then have a streaming PC or a recording PC. But the thing is like we're getting to the point where you don't need a two PC setup. So that kind of destroys the idea of having these types of capture cards, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point, right? I think HDMI like it's so weird because HDMI was so behind with like refresh rates and all that. Now they've caught
Yeah.
up, so it's like yeah, I think it's good for stuff like this, so you don't have to worry about using DisplayPort. But eventually, get to a point where it's kind of I feel like most graphics cards I know, mine's still mostly DisplayPort. But I don't know if that's changing or not. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's HDMI is caught up at this point, so it's interesting to see kind of more devices utilize it. And yeah, for Xbox it's interesting too, right? Because obviously they don't want to. I think they it's more convenient certainly I think to just use HDMI rather than trying to have people adopt DisplayPort on consoles. So it made sense for HDMI to catch up. So now
It's very true.
at
Yeah.
that point now, so yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah, so I actually the first part of the article, the first like three paragraphs, I essentially summed it up by giving the breakdown of what the different capture cards are. let's jump into the second section where it says, why are HDMI 2.1 capture cards so important?
Yeah.
So I'll read this and then we'll jump down to the specs. Now, the big question of why HDMI 2.1 is so important comes down to the output of the current generation of consoles, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and graphics cards, and input on TVs. On the outside, these new gaming devices are capable of delivering up to 4K 120 hertz for consoles or 4K 240 hertz for the PC video signals, which is a big ask for pass through. No kidding. You degrade massively with pass through. So, some captured devices could meet some of these expectations, but there are always shortcomings or two where the consoles were concerned. Without HDMI 2.1, the captured device couldn't hit both 4K 120 Hz and HDR, which is key if you want to actually enjoy the graphics on the games, and support VRR on the pass through side. Creators needed to accept a lower visual experience on their end, even though the most they could output to the average streaming platform was 1080p 60 hertz or 1440p on some platforms. 1440p basically being YouTube, unless you're in another country and you speak another language and you're using another platform that's outside the US. So let's just go ahead and jump down into the stats or the specs. So this is going to be from the internal capture card, the Live Gamer Ultra 2.1, the one that goes into your PCIe slot. It has a max pass through of 2160, 144 HDR or VRR, or a 1440p, 144. We're talking frames basically, or hertz. HDR, VRR. These are crazy numbers, by the way. This is a pass through, insane. So 1080p, 240 hertz, HDR, VRR. Just assume everything is HDR, VRR. If you're doing 1440p, you're going to hit 244 as well. If you do 1080p, you can actually get to 360.
That's pretty nuts for a pass through.
Nutty.
You can go through 360.
Very
I mean,
crazy.
360. That's like the next jump. I feel like right now, so it's pretty.
I
pretty
think
cool.
so too. Yeah. In terms of like frames per second, I think it's all going to be about 1080p and as high the frames you could possibly get for monitors.
Yeah.
That's basically the future. It's insane. Oh, this is quite an interesting take. Let's read this. So, why do some prefer PCIe capture cards? So, why do some people prefer the internal capture cards? Although at one point a PCIe capture card was preferred for its lower latency and faster data transfer rates, companies like AVerMedia have balanced out the differences thanks to USB 3.0. Now it all comes down to a personal preference whether you want the PCIe slot or the USB capture card. Obviously, the biggest benefit is not having to worry about having an available USB 3.0 port and plugging the capture card directly into the PC, which is worth it for a lot of people. Not having to provide external power or deal with the extra cables beyond the HDMI 2.1 input and output is also the reasons that someone might prefer a PCIe card. I'm exactly the same way. And not only that, but I'm sure this card has RGB. And one of the cool things, side note about AVerMedia, I bought their capture card, the 4K, and then I posted to Twitter, and they only had like a couple of options. They had like for the LEDs, right? They had like the rainbow like rotating, and it was always really really fast, and they had
Yeah.
solid color, and the colors were very limited. And I like messaged them, I'm just like, dude, if you have RGB and all the rainbows, that means you have all the color palettes you need to get whatever color you want. I was
Yeah.
like, can we try something different? Like maybe do pulsing, maybe they're just like, don't worry, it's coming. And then like literally a month later, they sent an update. You download the update and it allow you to customize it any way you want.
It's pretty
So now I
sick.
have it like it's
Nice.
so sick. It's like I have it matching the rest of my gear inside my case. It's that's not really that's kind of a niche thing for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's pretty cool though.
Um
The fact that they were just kind of on that already.
yeah. So the let's get into the other one. So the Live Gamer 4K 2.1 specs. Now, oh, I didn't skip. They have the formatting so similar that I thought I messed it up. My bad. So this is the one that's going to be the USB. Now, this is the max. Let's see if it's actually the same. I want to. Okay, so we have a little bit more of a range in the resolution, looks like.
Oh.
Yeah, it does. So the resolution is slightly different. So the max pass through is 2160 with 144 hertz, or the other resolution is 3440 by 1440p at 120 hertz, or 1440p standard 240 hertz, or standard 1080p by 360. So pretty similar. The HDMI 2.1 capture card generation is here and there. Is something to be said for AVerMedia being the first one out the gate. Without any noticeable hiccups in the design or capability of the software like OBS, the LiveGamer Ultra 2.1 is currently the external capture card to beat for content creators. Admittedly, the value of HDMI 2.1 correlates to higher end tech, but that tech is now becoming more and more ubiquitous. Where it felt like a luxury to even have an HDMI 2.1 port on a TV, they are now becoming standard, which is freaking awesome. Yeah. Anyways, probably the number one complaint people are going to have. It's the only one on the market that you can possibly get that I know of. I'm sure there's other people that have actually made one earlier than this, but on a main manufacturing scale that you can get readily available, it is expensive. That is what I was talking about at the beginning with AVerMedia. If they have, in my opinion, they have the best hardware you can get. They have an active software that's very, very helpful. But the problem they have is the price. The price is a lot, and they go on sale frequently, so you can check that out. And if you're wondering how much is the price, so it's $300 for the AVerMedia LiveGamer Ultra 2.1, and then it's $270 for the LiveGamer 4K 2.1. Yikes! So the USB version, 300, and the one that goes in the PCIe slot, 270. And I'll do a live look of the capture card that I currently have. This is the AVerMedia GC573. It's a 4K capture card. It is not HDMI 2.1. It is $200 on the AVerMedia website.
Interesting.
Let's see. I'm trying to find the one for Amazon. At Walmart, it's $250. And I don't actually see the one on... Oh, no, there it is. Here we go. It's on sale. It is 20% off, $200. So there you go.
Yeah. Okay.
And then if you do the Elgato equivalent, they're usually comparable prices. I think the 2.1 is the reason why this is a little bit more, and it's newer technology. So
yeah, sure. Hey, I give it to AVerMedia though, trying to push that market, do some interesting stuff and appeal to the more higher end.
Exactly. I do want to say one last thing before we jump over and we actually go to some layoffs. Spoiler, that's the next article.
Oh.
But what I do want to say is the problem with AVerMedia capture cards is they don't have like lower end resolutions and below 60 frames a second in terms of pass through. I know this because I tried to use an original Xbox on my 4K capture card and it would not work. I had to upscale the resolution and then use an EDIT emulator to basically spoof that I had 60 frames per second when I do not.
That's crazy.
Those devices, I mean, I could actually get it done with the EDIT emulator, and that was $20. So you can extra 20 on a capture card that's $200. I think you can handle it.
It's pretty nuts, I guess, but I guess it makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
Weird. I think we talk about what's going on in the industry that we talk about every week.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is gonna be the trend, and I'm sad about it.
Listen, this is a pretty sizable article. Sure, I will cut it down a little bit. However, we got to discuss. The Wired actually did this. Wired.com. Every time I think of Wired, I think of the Wired autocomplete interviews. It's like their hit series on YouTube. You see it all over the place.
Yeah, it's same here. Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. But they wrote an article saying mass layoffs are causing big problems in the video games industry. More than 1/3 of video games developers are impacted by layoffs in 2023, according to a new survey. The AI automation looming, the industry is facing an outflow of talent. Written by Megan. Do I even attempt that last name?
I actually don't even see it's wow. Okay, that's a weird. Well, first of all, that's a weird last name.
Interesting. It's very interesting.
Frukmanish.
I like, it's not bad. Megan Frukmanish. Say that. All right. Hi, Megan. Listen, gotta read your article. as games like Baldur's Gate 3, Alan Wake 2, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Spider-Man 2, and so many more mark 2023 as a year of instant hits and commercial success, developers were suffering. Layoffs rolled across the industry worldwide, knocking out a reported 600. Gee, what am I about to say?
6,500.
6,500. Gee, 6,500 jobs from studios like Amazon Games, Ubisoft, Epic Games, and Niantic. Roughly 1/3 of developers were affected either directly or indirectly by job losses in 2023, according to new data released today by organizers of the Game Developers Conference. And by today, this came out on the 18th. We posted the episode on the 19th that we recorded on the 17th, so it's like we just missed this article, but I feel it was good to cover this week. Because GDC was recently, and they always do kind of polls to developers that come to the event, and,
it's like state of the industry almost.
Yeah, pretty much. So each year they run these polls to attendees to talk about issues facing the industry, from layoffs to generative AI to diversity efforts. For the current survey, they polled 3,000 developers from game studios large and small. The replies paint a concerning picture about long-term career sustainability within the game industry, a field that perhaps grew too quickly during the COVID-19 pandemic and is in the midst of rapid consolidation, as well as why am I blanking out on this word? Burgeoning? Is that how you say it?
Bargaining? Burgeoning?
Hold
on. Burgeoning. Yeah, it's burgeoning.
Burgeoning. My gosh. Bugging out on this word. Unionization efforts. Talk about unionizing, you know what I'm saying? Anyway. According to the survey conducted in October 2023, 35% of developers were either laid off or had colleagues laid off at their companies. Of these layoffs, it was quality assurance workers who seemed to have been most impacted. 22% of QA workers said they'd been laid off in the last year. Only 7% of developers overall reported losing their job. Perhaps unsurprisingly, it's quality assurance workers who had been leading the union charge at companies like Activision Blizzard. Developers also expressed apprehension that their companies could they could have layoffs within the next year, with 56% of respondents declaring some level of worry about future cuts. Quote, the layoffs are concerning because they don't seem to be following the typical cyclical trend. I like these words. Cyclical trend of layoffs around a project ships, said one respondent. Not that was great either, but it's hard to predict these days when and where layoffs might happen. Many developers have believed the reason behind the industry's mass layoffs is pandemic related. Studios ballooned in headcount and are now facing harsh realities as people spend their money elsewhere. I see it as a correction now that revenue is back to more normal levels post-pandemic, said one respondent. Another deemed it as a, quote, reality of doing business and changing markets. Job insecurity can lead to big problems for developers that are just finding new work. Developers on work visas face the threat of deportation and losing their lives they've built abroad. For others, it keeps them from seeking out jobs with healthier environments. Quote, I feel forced to stay in a toxic environment. That's never good. You know what I'm saying? That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's tragic.
Yeah, crazy. For smaller studios looking to survive, the industry's rush towards consolidation may offer some solace. According to a developer at, quote, a small company just trying to make ends meet, there is an allure in making oneself desirable for acquisition. It alleviates some of the pressures caused by financial burdens. Developers are still split on the impact of consolidation at large. However, 43% believe it will negatively affect the game industry. In 2023, Embracer Group became the poster child for the struggles of acquisitions. After gobbling up studios such as Gearbox Software and Crystal Dynamics, the company cut hundreds of jobs last year to staunch the financial bleeding. It's closed other studios like Saints Row developer Volition entirely. Once a huge publicly traded company buys up large swaths of an industry, said one developer about Embracer's fumbles, it will inevitably end up creating redundancies and placing innovation or exploratory studios in a position where they've never been seen as profitable enough for shareholders. The game industry, as it exists today, is a difficult one to stay in long term. According to GDC's survey, 56% of developers have been involved in games for 10 years or less. Of those with longer tenures, 87% are men, 92% of those are white. Instability within the games industry continues to fuel support for unionization. The GDC found that 57% of developers are in support, a number that's up from 53% last year. It used to be extremely anti-union, as it felt it would adversely impact any industry reliant on flexibility and innovation to continue to thrive and grow, one developer said. I still mostly feel this way, but the large-scale layoffs are making me rethink my otherwise confident stance. Take a pause right there.
Yikes.
Shocking, a lot of words, a lot of paragraphs here. But yeah, this is kind of the, I think this is where kind of a lot of devs seem to be heading, especially, from just go to GDC and voicing their opinion. But, yeah, it's, I think it too, like we've talked about it, it's obviously, I think pandemic had a huge role in kind of these consolidations and why we're seeing so many layoffs now. And we hope it slows down, but we have another article coming up soon that may say otherwise, so we'll get to that when we get to that. But what do you think so far, Mike? Do you agree with kind of what people are saying, you think?
Well, it's not really about agreeing with them, right? It's the overall survey of what they're seeing in their own studios. So it's kind of like a self-report in a way, not like in a negative aspect, but just like, hey, this is what we're seeing from our point of view. And then you start saying it's like, oh wow, it's actually like that's a large percentage of people that are saying that there are issues on the way. And I think it's kind of true. Like the economy changed very drastically in less than a year. Interest rates soared up like worldwide. And pretty much everybody overhired the last like 2 years, probably. So when interest rates go up, you start losing extra money, and then they're like, you know what? What's our biggest cost? Oh, it's the new hires that we just got. Okay, well, we might need to make some sacrifices to people that are either new or maybe their salary is higher than they would like it to be. They feel like they can fulfill that role with a cheaper um, employee. I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a fair assumption. I think it's certainly, calls for concern. I know the article too talks about, the increasing use of AI and how, that's certainly brought some doubt in. And and I would agree. I mean, especially in something like this, you hear developers utilizing AI and it's kind of just like, it's, I think it's, it'd be nice to have some regulation in place, something like that. And it seems like even like, I think it was, we were discussing like SAG-AFTRA was saying like, oh, we agreed to this, and this, and then a bunch of developers like, no, we didn't. So
like voice actors, SAG-AFTRA basically saying that it's okay that AI starts taking over. Like, I don't even really know why they would agree to that in the first place unless they got paid off.
Yeah,
because it's so against their own interest to agree to it.
Yeah, for real. So I mean, we see stuff with that too. Like you see, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how kind of AI is treated, but yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I think it's kind of confirming of some of our beliefs and assumptions about why we think all these layoffs are happening. Kind of getting more of an insight as to what's going on. So yeah, and it's it's become more and more of an unfortunate reality. So and that more or less Mike leads into the to our next article because kind of discuss that a little bit further.
Oh yeah, you want to? Jeez, it's so sad. I don't like covering these types of stories. It's just like, yeah.
Same.
But it's a matter of the fact that it's happening, and it's not. I think it's happening more extremely these layoffs in the tech industry than it is in any other industry right now. Maybe real estate, but the real estate agents are kind of self-employed in a way, so it's just people leaving their industry. It's not like they're getting laid off. It's like, hey, I got to eat, so I got to go get a job. That's yeah. All right, let's get into this one. This one actually comes from videogamechronicle.com. It is Tom Ivan, who we've covered several times on the show. So the title of the article is Game Industry Leader Predicts 2024 will be, and in quotes, the year of closures. There are just too many unprofitable businesses in video games. I think that is accurate. I think that's very accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, just to name a few before we get into it, I'm sure he's going to mention it's like Twitch is doing layoffs, like content creation in general, esports teams are basically going defunct. The orgs, they never had money in the first place. A lot of leagues are shutting down as well. It's tragic, I think. It's a bubble and it's all popping.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Yeah. So, game industry leaders have suggested that widespread job losses across the market last year will continue throughout 2024 and likely stretch into next year too. Eesh. So this could be a 2-year issue, maybe longer. Who knows? So, game developer Farhan Noor, who has been tracking job cuts back to the start of 2023 on videogamelayoffs.com,
What a
estimates that
site.
around
Oh, what a
10
website.
yeah, that's I don't want to go to that website. It's just gonna make me sad. But they estimate that around 10,500 game industry employees were laid off last year. That is a lot of people, probably worldwide though. So I guess that's okay. Not as bad. In less than a month into 2024, some 3,000 planned job cuts are already thought to have been confirmed. Speaking to Game Industry Biz anonymously, senior industry figures warned that more tough times are in store for the market due to continued high interest rates, an overabundance of new releases, and cautious investors. That's a big one because these companies might not be profitable and they need investors. Hard to get those if they're not willing to basically take the risk.
Yeah.
So, according to one CEO of a public company, if 2023 was the year of layoffs, 2024 will be the year of closures. Not just developers, but publishers, media, service companies. I'm predicting Ubisoft. Remember I said that last year? They're in
Which,
dire straits, man.
oh man. You know, it's so crazy too. Because I did not think about this until I heard this in a video recently I was watching. But it's like, Ubisoft going under is more scarier to me, given the context of the services that they have, whether you play platform and a lot of their games that
Yeah.
like a lot of these servers too, where they host like their games and you have these subscription services and you have like all this stuff and you have these digitally licensed, games where it's like, are you gonna have access to that if Ubisoft shuts down? I didn't think about that until like I just heard about it in a video and I
No,
was like, that's a good point. Like, are we even gonna have access to that stuff if Ubisoft shuts down?
I don't think so because they're trying to get away from hard copies. And nowadays, you have to use your games and be connected to the internet to connect to a server to verify that you own it.
Yeah. And I have games in my
So,
library on Ubisoft too, right? Like Assassin's Creed games and stuff that's digital only. And it's like, I may just lose all that. A lot of people might just lose their libraries, It sucks.
you seriously might. I basically lost my Assassin's Creed Black Flag save because I couldn't get into one of the Ubisoft accounts or something. Something messed
That's
up between Uplay and Ubisoft Plus or whatever the heck it's all on. It's like, dude, you're
dude,
making it such a hassle. I don't even want to play your game.
it's just ridiculous to me, man. I don't know. Hey, I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of a side note, but that was kind of scary when I thought about it. It's like, might lose our libraries.
Yeah, I think it's justified. Ooh, geez. All right. So where am I at? All right. There are just too many unprofitable businesses in video games, the CEO of the public company said. We're looking at up to 2 years of pain. One
Pain.
publisher boss, who knows what boss means, studio head, something like that, director. Too many games were greenlit in 2020 and 2021. We need to get the pre pandemic levels in terms of release schedules. That's probably going to take 2 years. I want to know who that is because I have a video game draft coming up, and whatever studio he's a part of, I am taking the over if it releases in 2024 because that basically says our games aren't going to be coming. Just letting you know. All right, so he continues, or they continue. We don't know if it's a he. So they continue. You can already see publishers signing fewer games. That's happening everywhere. The stores are saturated, not just Steam, and the games just aren't delivering the levels they were. That's a fact.
A lot of
So
games are.
much garbage is out there, dude.
Yep. It's true.
Just
So
money
true.
grabs. A lot of money grabs. The latest GDC State of Game Industry survey found that around a third of developers were impacted by layoffs at their workplace over the 12 months ended in 2023. That's what we just covered. And it was asked how concerned they were about layoffs over the following 12 months to October 2024. 14% of 3,000 respondents said they were very concerned. 16% said they were somewhat concerned, and 26% said they were slightly concerned. Bro, do you want to do some math real quick? 26 plus 14, what's that? 40? That's 40 right there. So
40.
plus another 16%, that's 56. So 56% of 3,000 plus surveyed said they are essentially concerned right now.
Essentially,
That is not a good idea. A couple of quotes is this one actually comes from one of the respondents. It says, Yeah, studios grew too quickly during the pandemic, and people are spending less money on games during a cost of living crisis, which is very true. Everything's gone up in price right now.
Shit.
Sorry, I'm at the bottom of the article. um, for the viewers there. One respondent said, and the bubble is sadly bursting. I hope it creates a new startups that revolutionize how we develop games and sets a precedent for larger studios to follow. That is what's been happening, I think, for the better part of 10 years.
Hope so, man. I
I
hope so.
think I think I think the small if you want a new experience, you need to go find a small studio. Maybe it's a AAA studio, but it's small. They're taking chances. They're relatively new, or it's just honestly like an indie dev that's building stuff out of their basement or a garage, like it's freaking Apple in the
Yeah.
80s or 70s or whenever
Yeah.
they made Apple. Um,
They said with Aura, that's the thing. They started in a basement, and now they're a studio, and here we are making a history game, popping off.
or In the Blind Forest, Rocket League. Like, come on, dude. There are really good games that come out of small studios, and that needs to stay as is. And these AAA studios, they don't take risk anymore, man. They just go ahead and they like find the indie small devs, and they're like, you know what, this is a good idea. Let's take it. And then all of a sudden, people are like, oh yeah, that's really awesome. Like a good example of this, Arma 3 Battle Royale. That's a mod that people started and they got really excited about, and then PUBG came or DayZ came, and then Fortnite. Now everybody's got freaking Battle Royale.
Yeah.
It's like that started because of like a couple of nerds modded a game.
Yeah.
That's what it
No.
was.
And now it's like we're past the BR trend, right? It's kind of just
Yeah,
like
we're gone, and now people are trying to jump on it, and nobody cares.
Yeah.
We
So,
moved
yeah.
on.
Yeah. I will also say the related content is very depressing for this article because obviously it's related to layoffs happened recently. We're talking
Yeah.
1 day ago, Riot confirms 530 layoffs.
Yeah,
We didn't even cover that story, but that was something that happened this week. Riot did layoffs. Embracer's Gothic and Elix studio, Piranha Bytes, is reportedly facing closure. Lords, the Fallen publisher, CI Games is laying off 10% of its employees. And there was reported layoffs at the Dead by Daylight studio, Behavior Interactive. There's just a lot going on across a lot of these studios. Every week there's something, and it's just unfortunately it's been that way. I feel like for a while. So
yeah, it's not good. It's really not good.
Yeah, it's not good, not good at all. But yeah, I mean, to this article, obviously they're anonymous sources, but I mean, if they are who they say they are, then hey, yeah, this is just some like, I mean, we talk about Tom Ivan. I'm not sitting here and saying Tom Ivan would make up stuff for clicks, but this is it's interesting takes. But I think if he's talking to people, if they're talking to people that know what they're doing, then yeah, it's I think it could be believable, right? So
yeah, I think all of this is believable. I mean, just the trend that's been happening right now, where layoffs after layoffs after layoffs in the tech industry, not just video games, and it's getting worse. I think. I mean, like outside of the video game industry, I've been seeing a buttload of used car dealerships go out of business. Things are closing down. Like Vroom,
oh
Vroom, the
yeah,
website. Yeah, they're gone. They
Yep.
closed.
Yep.
They're like,
Yeah, I
what?
heard. I want to say maybe Carvana had struggles. I don't know if they closed.
Oh,
But
Carvana is like on the verge of death. Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's not looking good for Carvana either.
Dude,
And
this is a side note too, but like it's so funny because my dad, a couple years back a few years back when he got his like most recent car, he got it through Carvana, and like it was smooth up until the point where he had to deal with like license plate stuff. And dude, it was bad. Like it was like weeks where he was
You
just
can't get in
struggling
trucks
to get
with
like his registration.
anyone.
So like he was like
Yep.
struggling to get that done for weeks, and it was like a huge hassle. And there was a lot of paperwork stuff they just were messing up on. It's just like no wonder they're going under.
Yeah, that was like I saw a whole documentary about it and how bad Carvana is. Like in terms of concept, it's a really good idea, but terrible execution.
Yeah,
And
for real.
yeah, there's you can go down a rabbit hole of why they're not a functional company and why it might be better off that they don't exist.
Yeah.
So
We already have
yeah.
CarMax. CarMax is probably our
CarMax, dude. Oh, they are struggling too. Don't get me started on CarMax. They are overpricing all of their vehicles, and that is the largest used car dealership in the United States,
It literally
maybe
is.
all of North America, and they can't sell cars. Like, because they remember when everybody's used car went through the freaking roof
Yep.
because they weren't being able to build any of the chips for the cars.
Yeah, the chip shortage.
So yeah, and now they just have a whole bunch of used cars sitting in their lot. Every single car max you go by, it's gonna be full.
With 3 words, all I have to say is, in this economy, that's been a running joke.
Dude.
It's just like, it's wild out here, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. I got a couple opinions about the economy. If you're investing and you have invested, it is great. But
listen, we're just excited to hear we're gonna launch E2. It's gonna be a nice little side project where it's all economics, and I know nothing about it, so it's all pretty much
just listen to me. It's just me up here ranting. The student loan debt, the credit card debt. That's what it'll be like.
All the charts. It's just an hour of just charts flooding the screen.
Oh, it'll be me from like Always Sunny. What's the name of the guy? Where he's like,
yeah, he's like, look at always like the conspiracy theorists.
Conspiracy. They're faking it.
It's all good.
That's what it's gonna be. It's just like, it's all credit card debt. They're faking it. They're like $700 monthly payments, dude. It's crazy. That's how
they
it's
act like they own it.
They act like they own it, yeah. And then they show up with their fake Rolex and they look down on me, man.
Oh my god.
Anyways,
so funny.
E2 podcast coming soon.
E2 podcast.
Like and subscribe.
Make the Twitter stream. But look, this is the thing. We talk about layoffs and everything. However, I think we are fortunate enough to live in a time where we still get games that release and just explode. And
yes,
one of those, the most recent example of this is Palworld, which we discussed. I've been playing a lot of it. It's kind of, I almost spent too much time on this. I just want to kind of go through a little bit of the timeline, give a little kind of stats and whatnot. I think there's a lot of like controversy surrounding this game. I won't get too much into that. I mean, obviously with its relationship to Pokemon and kind of how that's all going, there's been a lot of divisive opinions across the internet. You have dogs just tuckered out, just like chilling. He could be a pal. I don't know what his name would be, but just chilling, dude. Anyway, but yeah. So Palworld. It's, what we were all talking about. I heard some people saying like, oh, this is a total shock, surprise release. We didn't know about it, but it's like, they talked about it.
We definitely knew about it. Yeah.
They talked about it at Summer Games Fest. It was, they had a trailer. It wasn't amazing, which, I didn't think it was going to do that well just because I didn't know much about the game. But like after obviously playing the game and hearing about it, and there's still a lot of people who are playing it. And so, yeah. They call it like the first big surprise hit. I will say it's a surprise in the fact that we didn't realize it was going to be as big as it was. I don't think anyone did.
No. I think it's under the radar. So surprise hit. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that makes sense. I think we'll say it's always weird because like whenever we have those droughts of just something that's not like we don't have like a huge release or a huge game. Yeah, I often think back to like, I wonder if we're gonna get another game where it's just like gonna take over I
think we found it.
And this is it. Like Palworld is literally that game. I mean, we're talking about over 8 million in Steam sales like alone just in the first 6-7 days. Like it's insane.
It's incredible.
It's hit like crazy milestones. We're talking about peak player counts that are higher than like Counter-Strike 2 and Dota 2 on Steam. It's like second all time, second to PUBG, which a game like PUBG, I don't know, it's gonna be kind of hard to top like over 3 million or something like that concurrent at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, that game was huge.
One more thing about the Steam charts, because we're going to get into it. It's in this article. The numbers that they're showing are very, very impressive, like for sure. But the one thing that they actually exclude is this game is on Game Pass and it's on console.
Yeah.
How many people? Like, I'm just going to look up real quick. Xbox most played games. Let's see.
It's topping that chart. I'm telling you right now.
Let's find out. Let's find out. Like,
it's definitely going to be topping those charts. I
pulled it up. Fortnite's on it. Now, I don't know how often they update this. It might be weekly, it might be monthly. But let me just go ahead and Google Palworld. So it's not even so it's not on the most played games yet. Which means that Xbox must have some type of criteria where you have to be on there for a while.
Is it on console or is it PC only?
Is it? Am I crazy?
I feel like it was PC only. I don't know if it had an Xbox.
No. It is on a lot of consoles, my man. It's on Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S. Now it's in early access, so maybe it's not on console yet.
I stand corrected. Just as I stand corrected.
No, it's in. It should be on console right now.
Just as I stand corrected about this, because in part of this article they talk about Palworld's announcement trailer was in 2021. Did you see that trailer, Mike? Because I don't remember seeing that trailer in 2021.
I don't know if it was 2021. I know that we've actually shown it on this podcast
Yeah,
before.
we showed it in Summer Games Fest last year because they did have a small trailer.
Yeah.
Summer Games Fest. That was, I feel like, the first time I had heard of it. I think I was trying to remember if I had seen it before then. I don't know. I think last year was the last time it was the first time I saw it. I think.
Yeah, I remember knocking the game though, thinking that it wasn't going to be good because it just looked like an unfinished product that looked kind of like a knockoff. So,
Yeah.
like everybody's saying, it's like it's a knockoff, like Pokemon with guns, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because and it's crazy. I mean, like, it definitely pulled inspiration, probably putting it lightly.
Mhm.
But I mean, there's
Sure, but
definitely, I mean, look, it's at the end of the day, the core mechanics in it. I think it's such a solid foundation, and it's something
yeah.
that, and it's something a lot of people too, I think, agree with. Like, it's what Pokemon like should be at this point. I feel like. And it's kind of
Yeah.
Pokemon just isn't there, right? Like we get these new releases from Game Freak, and it's like they're either super buggy on release or they're just not. There's content's just not quite there. However, there's a lot of themes in Palworld too that just you couldn't put in Pokemon. Like you cannot put guns in Pokemon. Like that's just ridiculous. Like that just
Such a
would
shame.
it would not work. And you see, this is what happens though when you come up with these crazy ideas of something that's kind of like that. And so yeah, there's like so there was an article too. I think it was yesterday at the time of recording this was posted. It was on a Tuesday, but Palworld's come with the kneecaps of Steam's most popular games. With the days of its early access launch, it has sold 6 million copies. That's 7 million now. I think close to 8.
Yeah.
Rocketed at the top of the Steam concurrent players list. It can add another milestone. It amassed 1.8 million players that beat Counter Strike's all-time peak player count. Funnily enough, Palworld's peak player count only barely edged on Counter-Strike's all-time high by roughly 50,000 players. Impressive numbers aside, Palworld's got a tough row to hoe if it hopes to ever beat reigning champion PUBG, which amassed 3.2 million. So it's wild. But yeah, you see they have a screenshot here kind of showing the placement. It's pretty nuts. Just like most played games. Yeah, it's making a name for itself for sure. And then we also talk about everyone's making the Pokemon comparison, Mike. Everybody, right? So what does a modder do? He goes in and he adds the skins. He adds all the skins for all he has Ash. He's got Pikachu. He's got like a bunch of Pokemon skins modded over the actual PAL skin. And sure enough, Nintendo immediately was like, all right,
Oh, no.
this is close to it's already close enough. Palworld, we don't need the actual intellectual property. We wove it in. So there was cease and desist. I'm sure pretty shortly.
Oh, they got cooked. They got cooked. Nintendo does not mess around. They'll ruin your life financially for sure.
Yeah, they tend to do that. It's wild, Nintendo. They have amazing evergreen blue ocean content, but the second you wrong them, it's kind of rough. They say the evil side.
What's a good description that I agree with in terms of Kotaku? We don't agree with Kotaku all the time, right? But this description's pretty good. If someone tossed Minecraft, Fortnite, Pokemon, and some AR-15s into a giant blender, that's what this game would be.
Sure is.
Actually, kind of.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. I mean, look, it's a bit of a grind of a game too, which I had talked about originally. It's it takes a while to get stuff going, but if you have people to play with, it's a lot of fun. And I think you can build up your bases. You can get your pals to work for you. And help you.
Yeah, some of the stuff I see is wild.
some of the memes are pretty good. Some of the memes are pretty good. But yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's a good game. I definitely need to continue to play it. I want to I'm nowhere near end game yet, so it's just one of those things I want to keep going and try to experience as much as I can. But I already have a ton of hours synced in. Be sinking a ton more in. So it's,
I'm gonna be looking forward to progressing into this game because I got a community that I'm in, the Halo 2 community that I play with. They started a dedicated server. I'm definitely trying to get in that. Are you about to pull up gameplay of it?
Well, no, I was going to pull up gameplay. There was something I wanted to discuss towards the end because I know it was a comment that we mentioned before we recorded, and it's wanted to talk about a touch on that because now I have the context. So
okay, well, while you look that up, I'm going to look up one more thing for Palworld before we move on to your topic.
Yep.
And if I could find the article as quickly as possible. Oh my gosh, PETA's even upset about animal cruelty in a video game. Dude, shut up. It's a fake game with fake problems that don't exist. Like, just let people play games. That's
Some people with games, dude.
whatever. Whatever. Let me see if I can find it. Shoot, I actually can't because, well, this is a good problem to have. My algorithm's actually fixed in Google News, always sending me new stuff. So it's an older article, and it was basically talking about the updates that are going to be coming to Palworld, and one of them being PvP.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
that makes it interesting because, PvP is like you need to be like, how does that work when your character stays in one world? Do you have to all join up in the same world and then build up your character? Or are they eventually going to make it so you can cross save? Because that'd be so sick. If you can have
Oh
like
yeah.
all of your characters on one home server and then you just like grab all your stuff and then copy it over to another server, and then you don't have to create a new character every time you start the game. Like every world being an individual save is kind of annoying, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I mentioned too. I mean, they definitely talked about that. They already have like a working roadmap, and they're like focusing on the critical bugs first, and then
Yeah.
they're going to be working on some improvements from there. But then eventually they want to add like the raid bosses, PvP, like a pal arena, so you can PvP pals. Um, but also just like working on new islands and new pals and kind of expanding that. So I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of hope that there's going to be some long term support for this, which is awesome. So.
Oh, I mean, you sell that many, 5 million
You better
copies
support
of
it
the
long
game
term. Are you
in
kidding?
3 days. You better, please. Twenty
So,
six
wait, dude, this
dollars
is
and on
crazy.
Game Pass.
This is crazy for that
What?
studio too, because like they have so much money and like resources now. It's like
Yeah.
they could really go hard with this, and it's like this studio's whole like world changed overnight. It's wild
Yeah.
to think about. It's like now they
Yeah,
just have so much.
it's so insane, and they're basically going to be through a massive hiring process to try to like get the personnel to make things happen
Yeah,
quickly
for sure.
and have essentially kind of like a live support if you can, live service game.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, pretty much. Yeah, and there's already updates. I mean, there's already been a few updates just the past few days of just like minor things. Because like when I like first played, it was like there was kind of like there's like things that were kind of missing. I feel like, and they're already starting to kind of add those pieces in. Like some of the button mapping and stuff isn't quite there. Like I can't my interact key I wasn't able to rebind for whatever reason.
oh, that's weird.
Like
Yeah.
it's just really strange stuff like that. So I mean I think they'll improve it. But yeah, very interesting stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so
So forward to that
what
game.
were you about to show us before we
Well,
like
yeah.
are we finished up with Palworld? Gonna move
Yeah,
on?
I think we're finished with Palworld, but I just want to talk about. I saw so 4SHO. Hope I say your name right. 4SHO Gaming. Actually left a comment recently on one of our segments, discussing Call of Duty's Ricochet anti-cheat stuff and kind of what's going on with all that and how they're like still improving it. He said, I would love to get your guys' thoughts on the Azeron controllers. Seeing how you spoke of the keyboard and mouse versus controller debate in that segment, which we did, which I like remember. I was like remembering us talking about that. But yeah, I never heard of these until you had like brought it up, and I was like, what is that? And we looked it up. It's like it's the controller where it's like every little micro movement, almost to your fingers.
Yeah,
it's like
every
different
finger has a
input.
movement. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really I didn't realize that's what they were called until like I'd seen them before. I didn't like connect it. But yeah,
Well, the first time I saw them, I saw somebody actually using them and playing with it at an Halo Infinite LAN tournament last year, or maybe the year before. Uh, Pretty insane to see. They keep
can't
in
imagine.
mind, yeah, Halo is a console shooter mostly, and people use gamepads and controllers. So I don't know how I actually feel about it in terms of competitive play. I don't think it's something that I would support. It's like I don't think it's a good idea to bring that into a tournament play because it's such a niche product. And it's very expensive. Like $270, I think is the price of like the average one. I think that's what it sent you in the Amazon link I was able to find. So, but I think from an ergonomic standpoint, like let's say, or accessibility, like if you only have one hand and you're trying to game, that might be like a very viable option for
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah,
It's like I think there's a market for that. You need it, but I think it's a niche product, and there shouldn't be any type of like because the context of this comment came from anti-cheat software,
yeah.
and I don't think those types of devices would be used maliciously. I think
Yeah.
if people are going to use things maliciously, they're going to buy like a Cronus or a Zim, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it's a fair take. I will say the only thing I will say is, could you imagine if you get insanely good with something like this? and like every single movement is just like you barely have to put in effort, right? So if you just master the minutia of that, of just like micro movements,
True.
I mean, you could do a lot more, much more quicker than someone using a controller or something like that. I feel like. That being said, if you're in a high pressure situation, I feel like most people, if you're just like, they would just mess up a lot because it's like you're just like you start like stuttering, or like you're just like not like locked in, and so it's like you're just making a bunch of like movements that you don't mean to.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think this controller is really interesting. I mean, I think in terms of like a keyboard and mouse thing, I don't know, like until this was like more widely used, it would probably have more of a use case to like base off of, and like more out in the wild. It's kind of hard to say how it would like really factor into all that.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think it's I think overall, like I think it's cool, like it's interesting to see, and I think it'd be interesting to see more people use them, but it is very like nuanced, or like not nuanced, but it's very niche, like to the point where we're just not seeing much of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't even know how I would have to use it myself to determine if I felt like it was an unfair advantage.
Dude, could you imagine how long it takes to get used to though? Like I feel like it would take a while.
Oh,
For
it would
me
be
anyway.
it would be so foreign for sure.
Like
It took
oh,
me a while just to get used to the bumpers on the PS4 DualSense controller that you can get, like the button pack.
oh
And then when I got uh the Xbox Series Elite control, it wasn't Xbox Series, an Xbox One Elite controller, because those have 4 paddles.
yeah,
That took a while to get used to. Before, I would just path like all left to one button and all right to the other
yeah,
button. And then I'm like, I use the Thrustmaster controller now, which is like little small buttons and like with mouse click buttons. And there's 4 of those guys, and you can path and set different profiles. And it's like, dude, I at one point I had 2 different profiles depending on the game, and I would just literally switch on and off. And this is when I was playing constantly for like shooters. And but yeah, you have to use them constantly to not get those mistakes that you're talking about, accidentally inputting things at the wrong time and messing you up.
yeah.
So yeah, that thing is insane looking. It looks like a spider is on your hand, you know?
Yeah, it does.
It really looks
It does.
wild.
Yeah, it does look pretty crazy. But yeah, thank you for the comment of 4SHO Gaming. Appreciate you. I think it's an interesting
Yeah.
discussion. But yeah, it's something I didn't think about. And yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see if that will get more mainstream. But I feel like if it would, it'd be probably a while from now. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I think that I mean, yeah, it's kind of hard to say, right? I think the main thing holding that back right now is price. It's got to be price. One, it's like it's out of the box thinking, which is always cool to see in technology just in general. But if I can like $270 and I can get a mouse and keyboard for less than that together,
Yeah.
and it can be halfway decent, like why would I buy that? You know,
Yeah, it's a
what's the
solid point.
advantage?
Another solid point. But yeah, it's an interesting discussion. I'll say that.
Yeah. We're all gonna be VR in the future anyway. VR gloves doing this.
That's what's
Like
crazy.
Minority Report, like
I do like, like, dude, it's so crazy to think about. Like, we are going. In fact, I don't even think we are. I know we're gonna get to some point where it's like everything is like VR, and it's gonna get to a point where it's gonna be like Black Mirror. We don't know what's real or fake, and it's gonna be dangerous.
Here's a hot take, dude. Here's a hot take. Everybody knows it now because it's mainstream. We're in a simulation. This is VR right now. That's what's going on. I'm not even here, dude.
That's too in depth for me. I think I think after an hour and a half of a pod, it's like we're getting crazy. My mind's exploding. I can't do it, dude. I can't do this philosophical conjecture, you know?
That's fair. Well, that's a good segue for us to let the people go. For the people that are still sticking around and actually listening to us ramble. It's always good to respond to some comments when we can. And I think our episode is really just long because we were covering the new games coming out for this year. Just being excited, you know?
That's true, yeah. Yeah, I did have some extra time, didn't it?
Yeah, it certainly did. Yeah, I guess without further ado, a couple of things to always remind people and mention. We do have an RSS feed that we have booked and like set up, and I know Kyle, you've been using it, right?
Yeah,
like it's pretty valuable. It essentially grabs all of the websites that cover gaming industry related news and it's curated. I don't think I've seen anything in a while that's been like way off the book and outside of the gaming sphere. It's been like loosely affiliated at most. Oh, look at Kyle's show right now. It's for people that are just listening. we have two different links. One is for a web browser. The other one is for your phone, and it scrolls almost like infinitely. It feels like a minimum 25 posts of recent stuff, and that's where you're seeing the ticker as well during the episode of recent gaming news. But yeah, check that out. That's a good reason to join the Discord, see it, and everything that we've covered. Links are in the description below and the tiny URLs. Check them out with the timestamps. And that's all I really have. Kyle, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't think so. Covered everything. All talked out, you know what I'm saying?
Cool. Yeah, same. I'm gonna get a snack and then hit the gym, and then you're gonna play Palworld probably. So
you already know, baby.
Let's let them go. Thanks for tuning in. I'm MadMikeWillEatU. This is KyleHeath, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace out, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.